It was a night unlike any other in Pawsville. The sky was an inky black, with only a sliver of moonlight breaking through the thick clouds. The air felt heavy, filled with the kind of eerie silence that makes even the bravest souls shiver. In the distance, the woods loomed, dark, dense, and full of secrets. No one dared to venture into the haunted woods after sunset, but tonight, something was different. There was a whisper in the wind, calling out to those brave enough to answer. And two brave souls, Mimi the clever cat and Boo the curious puppy, found themselves standing at the edge of the woods, their hearts pounding, wondering if they had the courage to face what lay inside. It all started earlier that afternoon when Mimi and Boo had been playing in their favorite spot, a small clearing near the edge of Pawsville. The sun had been shining brightly, and everything seemed peaceful. Boo was chasing his tail in circles while Mimi lounged lazily on a tree branch, purring softly as she watched her friend's endless energy. Suddenly, a strange thing happened. A fluttering piece of parchment appeared from nowhere, carried by a breeze that seemed too deliberate to be natural. It landed at Boo's paws, and the puppy froze, his tail dropping as he sniffed the mysterious note. "Mimi, look! It's a message!" Boo exclaimed, his big puppy eyes wide with excitement and a hint of fear. Mimi jumped down gracefully and inspected the note. Her sharp green eyes narrowed as she read the message. "To those who seek adventure and are brave at heart, the haunted woods call. Enter at dusk if you dare, and discover the secret that awaits. But beware, only courage will guide you through the darkness." The words sent a chill down her spine, but Mimi wasn't one to be easily frightened. She looked at Boo, who was trembling slightly. "What do you think it means, Mimi?" Boo asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "I'm not sure," Mimi replied, her mind racing. "But it looks like we've been invited on an adventure. The haunted woods are dangerous, though. We'll need to be careful." Boo gulped, his ears drooping. "Do we really have to go? What if there are ghosts or worse?" Mimi smiled, her usual calm and clever demeanor returning. "We don't have to, Boo, but adventures like this don't come every day. And besides, you're the bravest puppy I know. We'll stick together, and I promise nothing can hurt us if we stay strong." Boo's tail gave a weak wag at her words, though his heart still raced with nerves. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the land, Mimi and Boo stood at the entrance to the haunted woods. The trees towered above them, their branches twisting like skeletal hands reaching out from the darkness. An ominous fog began to roll in, making the path ahead almost impossible to see. "Ready?" Mimi asked, though her own heart beat a little faster. Boo swallowed hard but nodded. "Ready as I'll ever be." Together, they took their first steps into the woods. The deeper they went, the more unsettling the atmosphere became. Every creak of a tree branch and rustle of leaves sounded like something, or someone, watching them. Boo's ears twitched with every sound, and his nose sniffed the air, picking up unfamiliar scents. "Mimi, what do you think is out here?" Boo whispered, his voice barely audible. "I don't know," Mimi replied, her eyes darting around, ever alert. "But remember, we're here to find the secret. We have to be brave." As they continued, the path became narrower, the trees closing in around them. The moonlight barely reached through the dense canopy, casting eerie shadows that seemed to dance and shift. Just as Boo was about to ask if they could turn back, they reached a small clearing, and in the center stood an old, crumbling stone well. Mimi approached the well cautiously, her eyes narrowing as she examined it. The well was ancient, covered in thick ivy and moss, and there was a strange, almost magnetic pull coming from it. Boo sniffed around the base of the well, his nose wrinkling in confusion. "Mimi, there's something strange about this well." Suddenly, a low, ghostly voice echoed from deep within the well. "Who dares enter the haunted woods?" Boo yelped and jumped behind Mimi, his fur standing on end. Mimi, however, stood her ground, her sharp eyes scanning the area. "We were invited," Mimi said firmly, though her heart raced in her chest. "Who are you?" There was a long pause, and then the voice replied, "I am the keeper of the woods. You have entered my domain, and now you must face the trials of courage to uncover the secret of the haunted woods. Only the bravest will succeed. Do you accept the challenge?" Boo trembled, but looked at Mimi, trusting her judgment. "Mimi, what do we do?" Mimi thought for a moment, then nodded. "We accept your challenge." As soon as Mimi spoke those words, the ground beneath them rumbled, and the air around them grew colder. Out of the shadows, figures began to emerge, shadowy creatures with glowing eyes that slithered and crawled toward them, their movements slow but menacing. Boo whimpered, his paws rooted to the spot in fear. "Mimi, what are they?" "I don't know, but they're not real," Mimi said, her voice steady. "They're just shadows. We can't let them scare us." The creatures inched closer, their glowing eyes fixed on Mimi and Boo. Mimi took a step forward, her fur bristling, but she held her ground. "Come on, Boo. We have to be brave," she urged, though her own heart pounded in her chest. Boo, trembling, looked at the creatures, and then back at Mimi. He trusted her more than anything, and if she said they could face these shadows, then he believed her. With a shaky breath, Boo stood beside Mimi, his fear slowly fading as he focused on her courage. Together, they walked through the shadow creatures, their glowing eyes following them, but never touching. As they passed the last of the creatures, the shadows melted away into the ground, leaving the path ahead clear once more. "We did it," Boo barked, his tail wagging excitedly. Mimi smiled. "One trial down. Let's keep going." The next part of the woods led them to a twisted, overgrown maze. The trees and vines seemed to shift and move, making it impossible to see which way to go. "This must be the second trial," Mimi said, scanning the entrance to the maze. "How do we get through?" Boo asked, his ears flicking nervously. "We have to stay calm and trust ourselves," Mimi replied. "Fear will only make us lose our way." As they entered the maze, the path twisted and turned in ways that made no sense. Every time they thought they were making progress, they'd find themselves back at the start. To make matters worse, strange whispers filled the air, taunting them, trying to sow doubt in their minds. Boo's legs began to tremble again. "Mimi, I don't like this place." Mimi glanced at Boo and then closed her eyes, focusing on the steady beat of her own heart. "Remember, Boo, we have to stay calm. Fear is what the maze wants. We can't let it control us." With her confidence restored, Mimi took the lead, guiding Boo through the maze. Each time they were tempted to panic, Mimi would stop, take a deep breath, and remind Boo that they could get through it if they stayed brave. Finally, after what felt like hours, they reached the end of the maze, stepping out into another clearing. "We're almost there, Boo," Mimi said, though her legs were tired and her fur ruffled from the stress of the trial. Boo, though exhausted, smiled. "You're amazing, Mimi. I wouldn't have made it through without you." The clearing they entered was eerily quiet. In the center stood a tall, ghostly figure, a phantom with a flowing cloak and glowing eyes. It hovered above the ground, its presence sending a chill through the air. "This must be the final trial," Mimi whispered, her eyes locked on the phantom. The phantom's voice echoed through the clearing. "You have faced the trials of courage, but now you must face your greatest fear. Only then will you uncover the secret of the haunted woods." Mimi and Boo stood side by side, their hearts racing. The phantom's presence was overwhelming, and the fear that filled the air was almost suffocating. Mimi remembered everything they had been through, the shadow creatures, the maze of fear, and she knew that they had the strength to face this last trial. "Boo, we can do this," Mimi said, her voice filled with determination. "We've come this far, and we're not turning back now." Boo nodded, though his legs were shaking. "I'm with you, Mimi." Together, they walked toward the phantom, their hearts pounding but their courage unwavering. As they approached, the phantom's form. Together, they walked toward the phantom, their hearts pounding but their courage unwavering. As they approached, the phantom's form loomed larger, its cloak billowing like a storm cloud. Its glowing eyes bore into their souls, searching for any hint of weakness. "You have faced shadows and fear," the phantom's voice boomed. "But now you face the unknown. Do you have the courage to stand before me?" Mimi stepped forward, her voice steady despite the fear gripping her heart. "We've faced everything your woods have thrown at us. We've been patient, trusted each other, and never gave up. We will not let fear stop us now." Boo, though still trembling, stood tall beside her. "We're not afraid of you. We came to uncover the secret, and we won't leave until we do." The phantom's glowing eyes flickered, and for a moment, the air seemed to still. Then slowly, the phantom began to shrink. Its terrifying form dissolved, and in its place, a soft, warm light appeared. Mimi and Boo blinked in surprise as the light floated toward them, enveloping them in a comforting glow. The cold, eerie feeling of the haunted woods faded, replaced by a sense of peace and calm. "You have shown great courage," the voice of the phantom, now gentle and kind, echoed in the clearing. "The secret of the haunted woods is not a treasure or a hidden power. The secret is that true bravery comes from within. You faced your fears, trusted each other, and never gave up. That is the greatest strength of all." As the words sank in, the light swirled around them, and the clearing began to change. The dark trees lightened, the thick fog dissipated, and the haunted atmosphere melted away. The woods were no longer a place of fear, but one of beauty and mystery. Mimi and Boo stood together, amazed at the transformation. The haunted woods had revealed its true nature, and they had uncovered the secret. The journey back through the woods was far different than their entrance. The trees no longer seemed menacing. Instead, they were tall and majestic, their branches swaying gently in the breeze. Moonlight now streamed through the canopy, casting a soft, silvery glow on the path ahead. Mimi walked with her head held high, her sharp green eyes taking in the peaceful surroundings. Boo, still buzzing with excitement from their victory, bounced along beside her, his tail wagging furiously. Boo barked, hopping around her. "We were so brave, and we uncovered the secret." Mimi smiled down at him, her whiskers twitching with amusement. "We did, Boo, and you were incredible. I'm proud of you." Boo's ears perked up at the praise, and his tail wagged even harder. "I couldn't have done it without you, Mimi. You always knew what to do." As they continued their journey out of the woods, they reflected on everything they had faced. The shadow creatures, the maze, and the phantom had all tested their courage in different ways. But through it all, they had stayed together, supporting each other and never giving in to fear. Soon the edge of the woods came into view, and as they stepped out into the moonlit clearing of Pawsville, a sense of pride and accomplishment washed over them. Waiting for them at the edge of the woods was their owner, who had been worried sick when she realized they had ventured into the haunted woods. Her eyes widened in shock as she saw them emerge, safe and sound. "Mimi, Boo, you're back!" she cried, rushing toward them and scooping them up in a big hug. "I was so worried. What happened in there?" Mimi and Boo exchanged a glance before Mimi gave a soft meow, and Boo let out a happy bark. They had a story to tell, one of bravery, friendship, and the discovery that courage always wins out over fear. In the days that followed, Mimi and Boo became the talk of Pawsville. Everyone in the town had heard about their adventure in the haunted woods, and how they had faced its trials with bravery and determination. Even the oldest, wisest animals in the village, who had always warned against entering the woods, were impressed by their courage. But for Mimi and Boo, it wasn't the praise or attention that mattered. What they had gained from their journey was far more valuable. They had learned that courage wasn't about never feeling scared. It was about facing your fears head on, even when your heart is racing and your paws are shaking. "Mimi, do you think we'll ever have another adventure like that?" Boo asked one evening as they lounged in their cozy corner of the house, warm and safe. Mimi stretched lazily, her tail curling around her paws. "I'm sure we will, Boo, but even if we don't, we'll always have this one to remind us that we're braver than we think." Boo grinned, his eyes closing as he curled up beside her. "Yeah, and no matter what, we'll always face everything together." Mimi purred softly, her own eyes drifting shut as she rested her head on her paws. They had faced the haunted woods and come out stronger for it. And now, no matter what challenges life threw their way, they knew they could handle them. Because courage, after all, was something that would always guide them through the darkness. Lesson learned through their adventure in the haunted woods, Mimi and Boo learned that true courage isn't the absence of fear, but the ability to face it. At every turn, they were tested, not just by the creatures and challenges of the woods, but by their own doubts and insecurities. From the shadowy figures to the twisting maze and the ghostly phantom, the trials showed them that bravery comes from within. It's the strength to keep going when everything around you feels uncertain and frightening. Mimi's cleverness and Boo's loyal heart helped them overcome each trial. But more than that, it was their bond, their unwavering trust in each other, that carried them through the darkest moments. they learned that, even when faced with the unknown, they could rely on each other to find the way forward. Fear is a natural part of life, but with friendship, patience, and courage, even the scariest of woods can be navigated. Moral of the story. The moral of this story is that courage isn't about being fearless, it's about standing tall, even when fear threatens to overwhelm you. Mimi and Boo's journey through the haunted woods showed that bravery comes from trusting yourself and those you love, even in the face of the unknown. Life will always present challenges, but with courage, friendship, and the belief that you can overcome anything, even the darkest paths can lead to the light.